Matthew, what's up, Matthew? Matthew says Georgia Tech making engineers proud. Awesome game over the Seminoles. Love the Georgia Tech fight song. They do have a pretty good fight song. Georgia Tech does have a pretty good fight song. I had to kind of stop myself from. I do have a take on this, and maybe this is a good time to transition. We can talk more UConn if you guys want to. You know how to be a part of the show. Click the $ below the chat box to do so. But that was really fun to watch Georgia Tech play like that. And I was starting to think, man, has there been a more irrelevant football program in the last 5 to 10 years than Georgia Tech? And I went and looked at the year by year. I was like, they were a little bit better than I gave them credit for, but some of that was coming when they were running the triple option, right? So it was like the fact that they were doing the triple option still and nobody else was, and it was kind of a boring style, and I don't know. They just faded into irrelevancy pretty fast for me, where I was not thinking about them at all. So I'm very happy for Georgia Tech here, and it was entertaining to watch them really beat Florida State up in the trenches. And I guess that brings me to the bigger point here, which is just kind of especially in this realignment world where the smack talk gets so personal, and not just, I don't mean personal necessarily from a person to person, although it definitely does. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but for the schools, it's really personal, because it's no longer just, hey, your team sucks this year. It's now well, you guys are a crappy brand and nobody cares about you and nobody watches you. And, it's just a whole nother level of telling somebody about their inadequacy that happens now in realignment Twitter world, with all this happening, coinciding at the time where we're all, way too online, and we get too into making fun of people and looking down at people. And Big 12 fans have experienced all of that, right? But Florida State has been doing a lot of talking, and I have no particular vendetta against Florida State at all. Would love to see them in the Big 12. But Florida State's been doing a lot of talking for the last year plus. And it's not just about their unbeaten season last year. It's not just about Kirk Herbstreit and being left out of the playoff and all of that stuff. It's all been about, we're better than the conference that we're in. We are better than you, ACC, and we know it. And you guys are holding us back. And why are we in this little peon conference? You guys all suck and nobody cares about you and nobody watches your games. If you do that, you better be careful about what happens when you go out in week 0 and you lose to the team that was picked to finish 9th in your conference. It's not going to be a great look. You're going to have to wear a lot of L's when that happens. And that's exactly what Florida State is dealing with. And you know what? From that standpoint, you got to hold the L's. They do deserve it, because they have talked a lot about that, not just with their actions, but literally talked. They have literally talked a lot. And the same thing goes for SMU. And Matthew, I appreciate you for this. Thank you for your support of the channel, and thank you for shouting out Georgia Tech and Brent Key, who's doing a hell of a job. But SMU was a part about this too. They played an opponent, thankfully for them, that was bad enough that they could still rally back and just have the game completely gifted to them. I mean, my God, I watched a lot of that game. Nevada completely coughed that one up. But SMU has been doing a lot of talking. They get their big boy donors to pay their way into the new league. And suddenly the ACC is awesome. The Big 12 is horrible. SMU's going to the playoff in their first year. And they find themselves down 2 scores in the fourth quarter against a team that had not beaten a Power 5 opponent in 3 years? I believe it was 3 years. And a team that had been 4-20 over the last 2 seasons. Yeah, not a great look, SMU. Not a great look, and had to have it handed back to you on a silver platter. SMU, another school that deserved every bit of smack talk that they were getting. It's curbed a little bit because, yes, they did find a way to pull out the win and pull out the game, but they deserved every bit of that. However, the big caveat to this, and the point that is coming back around on this, is that, well, it is totally fair, and I'm totally for everybody coming after them on Twitter and letting them know just what everybody thought of seeing them struggle. At the end of the day, it matters zip to their current statuses, their big picture standings here. Again, a part of what sucks about realignment. You can say all you want. Florida State, man, serves you right. You guys have been talking smack on this league. Jim Phillips gets people may say the last laugh. It's the laugh at least for a day, but that's just it. It's only a day because nothing has changed about Florida State's situation. Florida State is still, by current 2024 college football terms, I'm not saying I want it to be this way, but the way everything operates in the sport right now, they are better than the ACC. They should be making more than what they're making in the ACC. They're certainly on a level of like an Oregon or a Washington, who's now in the Big Ten. They're a brand of that stature. Florida State and Clemson. We can obviously include Clemson in this too. They're a brand of that stature. That has not changed just because of one loss in Ireland to Georgia Tech. It's very funny. There's a news cycle that accompanies that, and you can go take your shots now. It doesn't change. Florida State could go 7-5 this year. It will not change that fact. So I understand the catharsis of ACC fans getting it out on them. And yeah, I was retweeting some of the jokes out there. It was funny. It's great content. Doesn't change where they're at. And the same goes for SMU. Don't think I'm done with you, SMU. SMU is still in a tough spot. Yes, it's theoretically, yes, a better spot than where they were before because they are in, for right now, a Power 4 conference. But the ACC is still on an iceberg to implosion, or at least taking on a ton of water. And that's not going to be great for SMU. It's not. The best case scenario for SMU is that they stay in a watered down version of the ACC, which, might be still a legitimate step above the AAC. But it's not going to be this like 3 or 4 steps above that SMU really thinks it's getting here. And, nothing changed based on the fact that they went on the road and almost lost to Nevada. They could have won that game by 75. Nothing would have changed about SMU's predicament and where they're at. So that is the thing. Well, this was fun. It was a fun thing for everybody to enjoy and indulge. And it was, hey, college football's back and this feels great. And man, how is Georgia Tech doing this? They really pushed Florida State around in the trenches. I know everybody wants to talk about DJU, who, in some ways may be in the midst of hoodwinking a third consecutive fan base on his abilities and potential based on his pedigree. But you got to start with what was happening up front to Florida State there. That would be where a lot of my questions are, just as a casual observer there, somebody who does not know the Florida State roster inside and out. It sure was jarring to see Georgia Tech doing that to them. Ultimately, it doesn't really change Florida State's place here in all of this. So, but I hope everybody had a lot of fun. Watching the game and remembering what it's like to watch live college football games happening there. So, all right, we got about 10 minutes left in the show here. About 10 minutes left. If you guys want to talk more about the UConn story, welcome to do that. If you guys want to go somewhere else, I'm going to give you a couple of different takes here before I get out the door.